Welcome back to TV5 News at 9. This morning, Buckfire Law is filing a mass action lawsuit against the University of Michigan and an ex-assistant football coach, Matt Weiss. Joining us this morning to share more is Bob Lancy, a trial attorney with Buckfire. Thanks so much for being here.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on.
So, Bob, real quick, can you just recap the claims against U of M, Matt Weiss, and the alleged crimes?
Sure. So what we've done is we filed a 15-count federal lawsuit against Matt Weiss, the University of Michigan, and then Kiefer Development Services. And obviously the claims against Matt Weiss, individually or directly relate to his unlawfully obtaining access to our clients' medical records, personal photographs, personal videos on their devices, their phones, their computers, during the time that he was an assistant coach with U of M between about 2021 to 2023. The claims against U of M, they relate to their negligent supervision of Matt Weiss and various, civil rights claims and civil rights actions. And then against Kiefer Development Services, basically Kiefer Development Services is a third-party company that U of M hired to maintain medical records for our clients and student athletes at the University of Michigan.
And roughly how many people have been impacted by the breach?
Right. So the Department of Justice has reported that as many and probably more than 3,000 people are victims to what Matt Weiss did. And as it relates to Kiefer Development, the Department of Justice has suggested that as many as 150,000 people may be victims of his accessing their system.
And tell me more about Buckfire Law's involvement in these claims. Have you handled these types of cases before?
Right. Yes, we have. And so, I think that what makes Buckfire's case unique is that we filed this as what we call a mass action. A lot of the other lawsuits that have been filed, term themselves as a class action claim. And really, mass action claims like the one that we filed are appropriate where the damages to each of the victims is unique, and our position is that the damages that each of our clients and each of the victims to what Matt Weiss did are unique to them, and class actions are really only appropriate where you can say or establish that the damages are exactly the same. So that's why we filed this as a mass action claim.
So assessing the damages here really tells us the difference between a mass action lawsuit or a class action lawsuit.
It really does, and ultimately it's for the federal judge to determine whether they would ever certify a class action. Again, they would have to have a finding that the damages are exactly the same, and they're really not. Each of the victims in this case, they've been affected differently based upon what Matt Weiss has accessed related to them, including the medical records, the photographs and the videos, all very unique.
And how does someone know exactly if they're a victim of hacking?
Right. So in most of our clients' cases, the Department of Justice has reached out and let them know that the Department of Justice found information on various devices that were used by Matt Weiss, phone, computers, hard drives. And so that's how most of the victims are being given notice at this point.
And finally, if someone does receive a letter from the FBI or DOJ, what are their legal rights?
Right. So I would encourage them to reach out to our firm and do an intake, and I would let each of the victims know that their names, they're all going to be kept confidential. They will all be identified as Jane Doe or John Doe as appropriate.
Well, Bob, thank you again for giving us more insight into the case.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course. You can find more information on this topic if you just visit the hot link section on our website. Just go to WNEM.com.